Having the thumbs up from Ms. Reynolds, we will commence the meeting now with call to order. In case of an emergency evacuation need, should we encounter an emergency, we can exit the building from the lobby, either to the west or to the east. If for some reason those exits are not available, we can use the north exit here behind council. Our muster point is located near the gazebo. If we are evacuated for any reason, we will not re-enter the building until we're given the all clear by staff. I'd like to ask Councillor Dakin to give the land acknowledgement.
The town of Sylvan Lake respectfully acknowledges that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory, home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. These lands are traditional meeting grounds, gathering places, and travel routes for many nations, including the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Métis, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We acknowledge and thank all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries.
Thank you, Councillor Dakin. Our proclamations will be read out by our Mayor, Megan Hansen, who is online with us. And go ahead, Mayor Hansen.
Thank you. I have 3 to start the meeting off with today, and the first one is for National Indigenous Peoples Day, which is on June 21st, 2025. And it is as follows. Whereas National Indigenous Peoples Day is an opportunity for Sylvan Lake residents to recognize the history, culture, and perspectives of Indigenous people, places, and communities. And whereas Indigenous nations are, as the original peoples of this land, fundamental to the history, identity, and future of this land. And whereas Indigenous peoples have long celebrated the summer solstice and continue to do so through events and gatherings. And whereas the town of Sylvan Lake is committed to advancing reconciliation through relationships based in the recognition of rights, respect, and friendship. And whereas the date of June 21st is the day to inspire Canadians to relearn historical perspectives and increase individual understanding of a collective shared history. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Megan Hansen, Mayor of Sylvan Lake, do hereby proclaim the date of June 21st, 2025 as National Indigenous Peoples Day in the town of Sylvan Lake. Next, the proclamation is for Lemonade Day, June 14th, 2025. Whereas the town of Sylvan Lake, in partnership with many local businesses, is hosting the 3rd annual Lemonade Day. And whereas Lemonade Day teaches the youth of our community how to start, own, and operate their very own business by using fun and experiential learning. And whereas Lemonade Day has the potential to create sustainable partnerships between businesses, schools, youth organizations, faith-based communities, neighborhoods, and government. And whereas by all of us working together as a community, we demonstrate to our youth that they are important and valuable and that we care about their futures. And whereas every citizen has a role in Lemonade Day, we are either selling or buying lemonade. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Megan Hansen, Mayor of Sylvan Lake, do proclaim the date of June 14th, 2025 as Lemonade Day in the town of Sylvan Lake. And finally, I have a proclamation for World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, June 15th, 2025. Whereas older adults in Alberta are valued members of society, and it is our collective responsibility to ensure they live safely and with dignity. And whereas abuse of older adults is hidden in an ever-increasing issue in our society that crosses all cultures and socioeconomic boundaries. And whereas older adults in the town of Sylvan Lake deserve to be treated with respect and dignity to enable them to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and important and active members of our community. And whereas preventing abuse of older people will help improve the quality of life for all older adults in the community and will allow older adults to continue to live as independently as possible and contribute to the life and vibrancy of the town of Sylvan Lake. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Megan Hansen, Mayor of Sylvan Lake, do hereby proclaim June 15th, 2025 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in the town of Sylvan Lake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hansen. In future, our open microphone is our next item. Our open microphone will be a timed item at 5 p.m. We didn't advertise as such, so we're going to go with the protocol to have open microphone right now. But at 5, just in case people were listening and plan to come here, we'll just check if there's any other person coming forward for our open microphone. We do have Mr. Detre signed up on the list, so please come forward this time. And as you know, the timer will make a series of beeps before the timer for 5 minutes starts. Go ahead, Mr. Détré.
Okay. Your Worship, Councillor, good afternoon. I could not be more excited seeing Sylvan Lake contemplating serious incentive to attract new businesses. However, the Council may consider the following comment. 1. Fairness. When a new business will be in direct competition with an existing business, the incentive offered is definitively unfair to the existing business unless it benefited or is still benefiting from the same incentive. This should be investigated. Point 2, rental. Because the incentive is a property tax exemption, only the property owner may receive it. Many new business will rent or lease rather than buy or build. Typical small business will rent or lease, while major business may let a specialized area IT finance their real estate and then lease it back from them. Canadian examples include Magna International, leasing from Granite Area IT, Canadian Tire, leasing from City Area IT, and we have one downtown, and Dream Industrial Area IT, financing many warehouse and distribution centers. A different incentive may have to be explored for such circumstances. Third, timing. Section 6.2 and 6.3 states that an application for non-residential tax incentive can only be approved after construction is completed and after the town assessor has assessed the new structure during the regularly scheduled period of assessment. Wow, this is too late. The business needs to ascertain as early as possible if he will qualify for the incentive, and he should at least be given an estimate of its amount based on the information already submitted to Sylvan Lake. Fourth and last, impact. The higher and earlier the incentive, the most effectively it helps a business. On June 4th, the Committee of the Whole favored a 5-year incentive at 75%, rather than the proposed 3 years incentive. General statistics show that most new business fail within 3 years, so if the business made it that far, it should not need incentive any longer. Still, any new business needs as much incentive as possible, so a 3-year incentive at 100% would be more beneficial for the business and would cost less to Sylvan Lake than the 5-year at 75%. Respectfully submitted, Mike Détré.
Thank you, Mr. Détré. Any questions for our speaker? Okay, thank you. Moving to adoption of the agenda, we do want to make one amendment with the item J, which is just a duplicate on the agenda. Think of it more like a typo, being removed. But since it was advertised as such, we'd like to amend it. A mover for the amended agenda. Thank you. Councillor Dakin.
I'll make that motion with the amendment of removing J.
Okay. All those in favor? And carried unanimously. Next item is our consent agenda, and that is found on page 6 through 7. Is there any items that people want removed for major questioning? Seeing none, do we have someone to, Councillor Rilling, to move the consent agenda?
I move the adoption that the 2025/05-26 regular meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented, and that council accept the first quarter financial reports for the period ending March 31st, 2025, as presented in AIR 1185, that council grants first reading to bylaw 1927/2025, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695/2015 as requested in AIR 1180, and that council set July 8th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the council chambers of the Municipal Government Building as the date, time, and place for the public hearing on bylaw 1927/2025 as requested in AIR 1180. And finally, I move that council approve first reading to amending bylaw 1929/2025, being an amendment to procedure bylaw 1886/2023 pursuant to AIR 1189.
Any question? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carried unanimously. Now we move to public hearings and delegations. We have one found on our page 9 to 27 of our package, and I welcome the RCMP. And I suddenly realizing I forget your first title, Mr. Peden.
Staff Sergeant
Yes,
Jay Peden.
thank you. I knew it wasn't constable, and I knew it wasn't just sergeant. Yeah.
At one time it was, so.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure. Yeah. And we all wish we started there too.
Thank you for having us, or having myself. Sean Sexsmith, my sergeant, was going to join us, but we kind of ran into some scheduling issues here. So first off, it's great to be back. It's been a while since I've had an opportunity to speak to council. I have stats, and some, obviously, we're stats driven. However, as we know, stats can be manipulated or used to both benefit or negative ways. So bear with me as I go through it. I've added a couple pieces to the folder here that kind of came a little late to us after I'd sent the email into Jolene. So the first part I'd like to start off with is the Q4 24-25 community report. One second here. Every computer's a little bit different, so bear with me here.
Page 18 of our package.
So the municipal policing report, this is the 2024-2025 Q4, so January to March of 2025 here. And overall, we met our benchmarks set in the annual performance priority performance planning plan that every community has input in to the priorities that the community has individually, as a whole, for the greater detachment area. And in our case, we also partner up with Blackfald's detachment to have more of a regional type performance plan. Now, this one is unique to here. However, the rural communities, Sylvan Lake, Blackfalds, they all come together to see that there is kind of a commonality between the issues. So I'll go through that a little bit here. But the first priority set back in 2024 was crime reduction. Part of our crime reduction initiative is our Project Lighthouse, which when offenders are arrested, brought before the courts, they're released on conditions, enforceable conditions, be it curfew, not to be in a motor vehicle, not to have contact with certain individuals. We do compliance checks with them. So in that quarter of January to March, we conducted 181 checks of those individuals. And the crime reduction initiative, like I said, Project Lighthouse has been a success for us, and we're continuing to move forward with that. For the entire year, we had over 500 compliance checks, and I believe, I don't have the stat here in front of me, however, our charges for breaching those conditions has dropped significantly because the individuals know that we are conducting these checks, which is great. Additionally, with us being constantly knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, calling, some individuals choose to relocate out of the area because they don't want the attention, or the individuals they reside with want them to leave because they don't like being woken up at 2 in the morning. So there's no set time, as long as it's between their curfew, usually from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So we'll check some residents twice to make sure they're compliant. We have seen in the past where we'll do the one check around 11 p.m., 12 a.m., and then they'll leave. And we go back another hour or so later and find them gone. So we've been quite active with that. Impaired driving, speeding, pedestrian safety was all part of the motor vehicle traffic priority. Obviously, we are a summer destination or a winter sport destination if it's ice skating, quads, sledding, so on and so forth, out on the lake, ice fishing. So we attempt to maintain that active enforcement, proactive enforcement. For that time period, we had 5 impaired drivers and that were charged in that quarter. And year to date, to that end of the quarter, we had 63 impaired drivers that were seeing some sort of enforcement action taken on them. Then priority 3 was community engagement. So as everyone knows, community engagement's a huge part of what we do here in the community. I have members who've joined us from elsewhere, and they are absolutely shocked about how friendly people are. People get waved at, and they said, we're not used to that. We don't see that at other postings, so, which is great. The other part that we have that's unique to us right now is we have a detachment Facebook page. On that Facebook page, we had 47 Facebook posts made to keep, obviously, our community informed, and our members are engaged with the community in that manner as well. And the last one we had was priority 4. So our member wellness is key. When I spoke to Lacombe County Council here as community as a whole a week and a half ago, so I said policing's hard on the body. If it's night shift, if it is extended hours, in and out of the police vehicle, nutrition, and overall, it takes a toll on the body. Right now, I can tell you that in the last 2 years, we've had 3 knee surgeries in our office, just because of the in and out of vehicles, the gear that we carry. So it takes a toll. It really does. So we focus on it. We make it a priority. Obviously, both myself and the NCO cadre that we have support the family component. The family is important, and so we want them to have that life outside of work as well as support that to maintain that healthy living. Some of the consultation pieces that we took place or we participated in throughout the last quarter there. So February 7th, we took part in the Coffee with a Cop and Council, which was a fantastic event at the NextSource. Great turnout and some really healthy conversation. We had individuals coming to talk to us that I don't think would normally engage with us. So that was amazing. And then I said on February 19th, 2025 was a meeting with elected officials. So those are your council, our policing partners, our contract holders, and we did it virtually, so we had everyone together. And it brings a lot of feedback. It gives that opportunity for the smaller rural municipalities, say Eckville, Bentley, Alex, to have that input as well, and the common issues that everyone's seeing. So, which was another positive meeting, which also developed into our 25-26 annual performance plan. March 11th, we had town hall again with the Medicine River Crime Watch and Community Peace Officers hosted Coffee with a Cop out at Eckville. Once again, we had a great turnout there. There was enforcement, county enforcement from Lacombe, Red Deer County, ourselves, and they had really great actual cinnamon buns that day too. So, but you gotta, Dana Krell and Lacombe County Councilor there, she is a big advocate for the Crime Watch and helped set that up. And once again, and then on the 12th there, we met with, myself and Sergeant Sexsmith met with the Bentley Town Council to go over the quarter results as well as our upcoming APP. So right now, under our municipal operations, our human resource kind of picture is our establishment here. So the municipal contract has 16 constable 16 working positions, sorry. Out of that right now, we have 13 in that last quarter working. We had 2 on special leave and we had 1 hard vacancy. A hard vacancy is a position that's vacant. In this case, it's the student school resource officer, which back, I believe in 2022, 2023, we committed to leaving that permanently vacant until such time the town decides to re-engage that position and provide the funding for that. And otherwise, the special leaves, they could be a mat leave, they could be a member off-duty sick because recovery from surgery, so on and so forth. And then, of course, our support staff at this point is established 2 positions. We have 2 positions working. That's under the municipal employee. However, as many of you know, the town of Silver Lake's gone to contract public service employees, Public Service Canada employees, and take some of that responsibility away from the human resource and management for the town. And I believe a little bit of cost savings there as well. So over that quarter, we had 13 members working. I believe for that year, the forecast was 14 members was what the billing cycle would have been for. So in the end, it kind of works itself out. So a little bit of a rebate coming back. Here's just a quick little financial overview. Everyone has this in their package there, so it gives you an idea of where the budget is, what the contract costs. So as you can see, 24-25, the financial plan was 14 full-time positions. Revised plan at Q4 was 12.29. So if a member's off for 30 days or greater, then the contract's not being billed, meaning that the town won't pay for that position. And they work it out. Our operational strategies branch is pretty good at making sure that that's looked after there. So, okay. And further, just a little bit of a description for everyone to see what the acronyms mean and a little bit of breakdown in the definitions there. I'll leave that for you to review. So
I'll just pause there for a second before we get to any crime statistics. Any questions popped up from anyone yet? I understand from further details in the report and info that you had some conversation with the high school about the school resource officer. What's the nature of that? Are they keen to have one start again, or and how is the detachment thinking about it too? Well,
there's a bit of a history there. There had been a school resource officer that was being funded by the town in conjunction with, I think, both Red Deer Catholic Regional School Division, as well as Chinook's Edge. And so funding's always the tricky part. So we've been active in the school. There's been an increase in youth activity inside and outside the school, and having a presence there is important. And so we try to maintain that engagement and that visibility. The recent meeting we had included the administration from H.J. Cody, administration from Fox Run, the superintendent for Chinook's Edge, Mayor Hanson, CAO Phillips, and Councillor Payne were also there. Director of Protective Services, Emergency Services, Ron Lebsack was there as well. And so the discussion was had about the possibility of refunding that position. And ultimately, that's not my decision. That rests with council and partners.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Ms. Phillips, please jump in.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that we do have that on the Committee of the Whole agenda coming up next week as well,
excellent.
Following up on that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Internally for us, if the town was to seek funding that position again, there would be a process to staff it. I have my ideas of how I'd like to have it staffed. And so that would all come into play down the road, depending on what council's decision is. And like I said, that's out of my hands. I mean, funding, it's a big cost as well. So
Thank you.
Okay, so the next one I'm going to point your attention to is the 2025-2026 APP. And so this is the performance planning for this fiscal year for us.
I believe that's page 9 in our package.
So as the contract for policing for the municipality of Town of Sylvan Lake, the Town of Sylvan Lake and some of our other stakeholders have that input to identify and determine what the priorities for policing are. Not set by Ottawa, not set so much by K Division, it's set by the Town of Sylvan Lake. And that's one of the unique things about having the RCMP as your contract for policing. We do have some internal pieces that I will make as a priority for the detachment. However, majority of it, I'd say all of it comes from the town, and then we kind of work with it to make sure we cover off what we need. And so on February 19th, like I mentioned before, we did have that meeting as a whole with different municipalities, counties that we police to come up with input from that. And so so that's the formal consultation. The second piece, we use the Coffee of the Cop at Eckville, Alberta, also as a consultation piece, as there was representative of the community there. And then also with the town council from Bentley, getting Bentley's input as well. So out of it, we've identified, the issues identified were crime reduction. So once again, the offender management court order compliance, motor vehicle safety, impaired driving, speeding, intersection safety. Gang activity, drug trafficking came up as a community issue. We have had some seizures here. However, it being that our number one priority or top 3 priorities isn't quite at that threshold. We still do enforcement, and we're still actively investigating through our GIS unit, as well as in conjunction and partnership with Red Deer Drug Unit, Red Deer Community Response Team, Black Falls GIS. So we work regionally with that, so we maintain a pretty good idea of what's going on, and we are actively enforcing that. Another one that's come up in the rural areas is rural property crime, thefts, and break-in enters. Obviously, copper theft is still a hot topic, and we are seeing a consistent call for service for that in our rural areas. And then number 5 is community engagement or communication, youth engagement, and increased in visibility. And that's across the board. Every community has indicated that that is a priority. And the last one, the member wellness, which it is a community issue, but it's also a detachment issue, obviously maintaining the wellness of our members. So from there, we broke it down to 5 priorities. Obviously, I didn't go with the drug trafficking part, but that is still something that we do on a day-to-day basis. So overall, our prolific offenders, like I said, we had 550 last year, so we're bumping that from 550 to about 750 as a target. We see, as people are released, we maintain that. So, you know, you do 8 checks a week, all of a sudden, it doesn't take long to hit that threshold. The other one we have is enhanced road safety. And last year we had 55-ish, up to 75 is what we're looking at. And I can tell you right now, from April 1st to June 9th, we had 38 occurrences of impaired driving reported to us. 22 of those resulted in some sort of enforcement action. That's April 1st to June 9th. We're not even in our busy season yet. So 58% of those calls, we are actually taking enforcement action on. So I think that number is appropriate. When you look at it, 22, and we're not even out of the first quarter, we're almost, we're 33% on the way there. So I think it's still quite relevant and a topic for us to maintain. Crime reduction, obviously, is the other one. And so our break and enter investigation clearances from 15 to 60. Our break and enters are interesting because you'll come up with a pattern or there'll be a one-off where you don't have a lot to go on. And so when you're looking at the copper thefts in the oil field in the rural area, then it's usually some group that's doing it. So we have some investigational avenues that we're looking to employ, also not just for the Sylvan Lake detachment area, but as across central Alberta as a whole. And then obviously youth, to objective here, be clear, accountable, transparent for community engagement, our engagement with the youth as well. And our community engagement, we put the numbers in there, but we do it every day, right? So, and then I'll just give you a bit of an idea of what we've done so far for education and awareness, and that's including meetings, our stakeholders, council, engagement just in the community overall. And then on May 15th, and this comes back to also a kind of a SRO position, Sergeant Sexsmith, he completed 6 presentations to approximately 400 youth at the high school, so grade 9s and 10s were the target group. The presentations are about 20-25 minute blocks, and the concept, the principle he went with is what's important now. Brian Willis, who's a retired Calgary Police Service member, officer, that's his job. Sean had listened to one of his presentations some time ago, and he said it changed his whole outlook, his whole perspective of what's important now. And what he went with was making those decisions now. How is it going to impact down the road for the youth? Is it important now to hop in that car with a bunch of kids going out partying, or is it, to spend time with your family or do something involved in the community versus, and what's the ramifications down long term? So really, really well received. And then our education awareness piece here as well. We've got some duplication here, but some of it is also separate. So we've been involved in the community on, actually I'll go back up here, on May 9th, I had the opportunity to present Edmonton Police Service with a organizational group award at the Diversity Awards held here at the Nexor Center. So we're getting out there to really show that involvement as well. And then our member wellness, workplace employee wellness and respect is another big piece, obviously, and record keeping, obviously, member employee check-ins and OHS meetings and reporting. So we're on top of that. We do have a couple members that are off, and we do have weekly check-ins that we do to make sure that they have what they need for resources, if it's peer-to-peer or they have the health access to the health services component that they require. So that APP, I also needs to be completed and signed off and accepted by the town of Sylvan Lake as our contract holder. I'll leave that with you guys to discuss at a later time. And all right, and then I believe the other one you had is some stats. So I have the, let's see here, the Q4 crime stats. I promise I won't take up too much more time.
So that's on our page 26.
So overall, our crime rates have dropped. Our calls for service have dropped from this time this year, from last year. So there's certain types of calls. So January to March, and this is the Q4 over a 5-year period. And you can see some of the drops here. We have had a bit of an increase in some of our persons crimes. However, some of them have also dropped. So harassment increased a little bit. Utter threats has really increased there. You've seen about a 26% increase from last year to this year over the course of the 5 years. You can see about a 50% change that way. It's easy to utter threats, social media, in person, texting. It happens a lot. So our assaults also dropped, thankfully. With the summer months coming, we know that's probably going to increase as the weather gets warmer. Domestic violence is still a key topic. like I said, it's one of those societal things that takes place, and we are up front and center trying to get the resources to lay charges where appropriate, and victim services is usually or always engaged with us for that as well. Our property crime dropped. So our break-and enters from 2024 was 17 for that quarter 4, dropped to 7. Motor vehicle thefts went from 31 in 2024 to 9. So our property crime has really seen a decrease. Theft over 5,000 increased a couple calls from 3 to 5 over the last year period. And our theft under also dropped significantly, 44%. Possession of stolen property dropped. One of the ones that we did note is mischief property damage had dropped as well to the 2021 level, which is the COVID time occurrences for that quarter. So we have seen some huge decreases. In fact, if you look at 2024 to 2025 in this right here, you'll see that we had 100 call difference or 100 call difference for property crimes from 24 into the 2025 year here. So, which is huge. It really, really is. And then we have other criminal code matters here. So, down, and then you can see here by type. So there's drug enforcement, which has dropped a bit. Trafficking files have dropped a bit for that last quarter. However, they will spike in May, June, July, or sorry, April, May, June, the current quarter here we're in right now. Same thing, mental health calls have dropped slightly. Other provincial statutes have dropped. Some of the bylaw calls for us have dropped. However, traffic bylaws had increased calls for service that way. And then down on the bottom, you have alcohol suspensions, roadside suspensions, so you can see a bit there. And this is just the town of Sylvan Lake stats. This isn't the whole detachment area, so keep that in mind as well. And then at the very bottom there, you can see we've increased our search warrants. You can see our spousal abuse still is roughly that's low 60 range, which has been consistent over the last 4 years. During COVID 2021, it had spiked, which we know. So, any questions about those?
No questions at this point. No questions at this point.
All right. One thing I do want to just show here quickly is it's a municipal crime stat.
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Throw one question in. Go ahead, Ms. Phillips.
This one's not on the agenda, correct?
No, this is not on the agenda.
So Ms. Reynolds is just going to help you share your
Yeah.
screen so that Mayor Hansen can see the presentation.
And I apologize. Like I said, this one just came to me after I was attempting to get everything here. All right. So this is, it's interesting. So this is January to May of this year. And so our break and enters show, it's a bit of a snapshot for you. Shows a 56.5% decrease in our break and enter calls for service, which is about 13 fewer occurrences. Theft of motor vehicles, 61.9%, and then theft under decreased by about 27.7%. So we're seeing a consistent decrease in property crime. Why? We've had individuals who've been incarcerated or were out of the area for that period, which also leads to some of those decreases we do know. I can give you, for Bentley, in 2024 had 60 criminal code charges. I'm just going from memory here. I believe 48 or 50 of those were by 2 individuals. So they moved on, and for 2025, January on, we've had very little calls for service or criminal charges out there. So individuals do make an impact. All right, and the next piece here, more of a visual than anything. So our crime, let's see how I can minimize this a little bit. All right. So this is Sylvan Lake crime gauge. So person crimes have increased. We are aware of that. We're seeing assaults amongst the youths We're seeing some domestics. We're seeing overall those type of incidents increasing. Warmer weather will also, we know we'll see that when alcohol plays a role. Property crime down 32%, other criminal code down 12%. So a total of our criminal code offenses have decreased 19% over January to May. Property crime, this gives you a bit of a visual as what we're seeing. And so, although 13 fewer calls, it's a 57% decrease for break and enters. 26 fewer theft of motor vehicle, and then of course the theft under 5,000, we're seeing a 28% decrease or 18 fewer calls. So overall, we're still a very safe community. Our members are out on the street. They're being proactive with those impaired driving numbers. And that shows you also several of those are proactive. So not just a call from a neighbor or loved one, concerned citizen saying this individual's driving. We're coming across these as well. Our members are, like I said, actively out doing enforcement that way. But we don't do it ourselves. I've got a great office amongst the constables and corporals and Sergeant Sexsmith, but we work quite closely with municipal enforcement. So Jarvis Gamroth and his group there, it's almost like one cohesive unit. Although separate entities, we still work really closely with them. And, you know, we've had a firearms file that was generated through a traffic stop by a CPO. We've had, and so we're quick to help them. Likewise, when we have certain calls, they're quick to help us. So it's a great collaborative team effort, and so I'm pretty lucky to have that relationship as well. So.
Okay. All right. I'll ask councillors any other questions that are popping up from the report. Please, Councillor Dakin.
It's not so much a question as a comment. I just want to say your Project Lighthouse is fantastic. I'm out late at night and I see a difference in the people that I usually had to be on high alert for. I think that it's because of your Project Lighthouse that we're not seeing those issues anymore, so thank you so much for that. And I also want to commend you guys for being present, Lakeshore Drive, downtown, late at night. And your presence makes all the difference in the world for everybody. Like, you can see the change in the crowd. And you guys come in with great, like, you're lovely to everyone, but just your presence shifts how things play out. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Having that proactive approach goes a lot further than being reactive to everything. So the enhanced policing budget we utilize, we're already starting to add a little bit for that. Over the next little bit between G7, wildfire rotations, they've enacted Section 9 of the MPSA, so now it isn't just a provincial member that's being requested for the wildfires, it's also municipal contract members. So we're seeing that increase here as well. I'm hoping that it doesn't last long. We get some rain to help settle the wildfires as well. But overall, like I said, we're prepared for the summer, and we're looking forward to it as well. So.
One other question from me.
Yes, sir.
With the new bylaw on public policing committee, it isn't anticipated to start for several months anyways, but from the detachment point of view, do you feel ready to start working with that committee, or does the detachment and the town have to have a lot of meetings to set it up? Not to get in any great detail, it's just how ready are we as a community?
I think as a community, the work by Ron Lebsack to get that initiative started, to get the bylaw in place ahead of the diary date, I guess, for lack of better terms, set by the province, was fantastic. I know that there's been some individuals selected for that committee, and once we're ready to go, I'm looking forward to working with them. I'll be honest, at the end of the day, the municipality is the contract holder, and the municipality is going to have final say as to what the direction of the policing priorities are for the town of Sylvan Lake. I believe the committee will be a representative body to also have that community input, that community guidance. Like I said, the partnerships have been great so far, and I don't I don't envision any hiccups coming or any issues. Like I said, we're open and we're flexible, and I think providing some of that insight and that behind-the-scenes look to the policing committee will offer more of a broader scope or perspective as to the successes we're having with this partnership.
Good to hear. Yeah, thanks. And seeing no other questions, we'll thank Staff Sergeant Peden. I have your title now. Put it in the memory cells.
Thank you.
I've heard it 100 times before, but I just went blank at the beginning of the meeting.
No, I understand. I do understand. So Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you again. Our next item on the agenda will be Pogattle Park Phase 4 development options. We'll find that on page 35 of the package. And Mr. Lebsack will take over the presentation. From police to parks is a big swing, but not for Mr. Lebsack.
All right, Your Worship and Council. So as we know, we brought the Phase 4 development options to Council on May 7th, 2025, here just a little while ago at the Committee of the Whole. And Council had a good discussion there and had asked for some additional information. So what I'll do now is quickly go through the discussion portion of the additional information. And then we still have the same presentation and options that we presented before just for discussion for Council. So at the May presentation, construction scheduling as per the phasing plan, along with a list of options for Council to consider should they wish to amend the construction plan. Council requested additional information on two main items. One, a revenue projection for paid parking should it be implemented when Lot 3 is paved and completed. So that one there, a couple bullets down. The estimated revenue projection for the implementation of visitor paid parking program has been separated into two different projections. So again, one charging for Gulls games is totally different than if we don't charge at the Gulls games. So we've broken that out into two separate projections here. Estimated revenue projections are included in the attached document, which I did bring along with me. So as we can see here, for Gulls games, and I won't go through, I've tried to include all kind of the math and the thinking portion of it there. For everyone. So again, if we're looking at Gulls games, we're probably looking at 48,000 plus, 48 to 50,000 plus in terms of revenue for Gulls games. When we look at just the spray park itself, again, we only took those 45 stalls that are in the direct vicinity of the spray park. You can see how our math there as to how we projected how many would be out of towners, and we're just over 18,000 there. Again, the synthetic turf field, once it comes, once it comes into play in the future. But as we noted here, that our paid parking program only runs to September 15th, which is probably going to miss a majority of the football season. So we're looking at, between high school and minor football, we're only looking at, what did I say there, 10 games per year as an estimate. So that number's fairly low. When we look at the Gulls Stadium rentals, again, this one here is kind of the outlier, I would say, because between last year and this year, we've seen, I want to say, 7 additional road games that the Gulls are playing at home. So the Edmonton team, the Brooks team, I believe maybe one other, are playing a handful of home games in Sylvan Lake just because of the stadium. You know, Edmonton Stadium isn't built yet. Brooks play on basically a community ball diamond. They don't have a nice stadium. So they're playing games in Sylvan Lake as their home games. So that one, there's a little bit of an outlier. We've pegged it at about $9,000, but that one could change a bit just based on how many other teams are playing in Sylvan Lake. And then again, the summer send-off is the only real special event that we estimated there. It's the only one that we have at the time, and we're looking at just about $10,000 there. So again, that just kind of goes into the background on how we broke down those numbers and how we created those projections for paid parking there. The second one is the cost for construction of an operations yard without the development of the building. So as you can see here, and what came to light for us right away is when you look at what we projected as the operations yard, and then you take out a building, I think we were roughly $200 and some thousand difference. Well, you can't build a building for $200 and some $1,000. We understand that. So what it is a lot of those utilities and underground work that and some road work that would be needed for the building, we would put in right away anyway. Otherwise, they're just throwaway costs. So that's why the project cost without the building does look fairly high, even though there's no building there. So estimated cost for this is $635,000. And as you can see there, I put in, we have costed it out in a manner that the facility be constructed without much throwaway cost and without the building. The cost estimate is based on all base preparations of the site, conduit and wiring for electrical and communications, fencing of the yard, concrete curb, asphalt entrance road and parking, asphalt trail connection to the trail system, street lighting and yard lighting, and sod adjacent to the road and grass seed to the pond. Again, pretty much finishing that site and making that site ready to drop a building on, but no building. That's why the number looks fairly large. Again, moving down to resource impacts, we just wanted to bring this to council's attention again. Financial resource impacts are outlined in the attached document. We've included the document from the 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting that includes cost estimates for the construction costs of Phase 4 parking. We also provided cost estimates for the development of the yard without the building. And that's the last one that I wanted to hit on actually, was the proposed funding for Phase 4 construction is fully debt funded, and a borrowing bylaw must be passed before construction can begin. So as part of our current capital plan, the number that we see in there is fully debt funded. And we just wanted to remind council of that as it plays into our borrowing load and our debt limits. We're not taking from one account or taking from reserves or doing any of that. The entire project currently is based on debt funding. So we wanted to make sure that council was aware of that again. And again, there's lots of options there. Like I said, I provided all the options that we currently had in the original proposal presentation from the COW meeting. And at that point in time, I believe I will open it up to council for questions. And I look for a motion at the end to proceed.
Okay. Any questions right off the bat? One question I have is, it's a betting average. Is there optimism in the soccer club's grant process with provincial government if they apply for the grant monies? Is there optimism there, or is this a shot in the dark?
Councillor Ostindi, I believe the way I could answer that is there's definite optimism there. There's a definite, I would say, feeling or understanding that they will get some money. Now, what that would be is kind of a shot in the dark.
Yeah, okay.
We've seen different projects over different years come up with total different funding levels that we're not even aware of how they came up with those numbers. So it almost depends on who else is applying in that year. The thing we have going for us right now is the town of Sylvan Lake really hasn't had a whole lot of applications in the past 5 years. So we've pretty much done one a year, but they haven't been real big ones. So we have that on our side. But again, to kind of pigeonhole where we might come in the funding level, not possible, because there doesn't seem to be a real theme in terms of applications.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Payne?
I think Mayor Hansen also has her hand up, but I just got a quick question. Okay. In regards to the recommendation for what seems to be the desire and the conversation we had at Committee of the Whole, can you give me a timeline estimation as to when the turf field would come back into a phase? What are we looking at for time going down the road in terms of getting this turf field done?
So to Councillor Payne, I'm going to say two things to that. Our proposed resolution is based on, I'll call it fiscal responsibility. So that dollar figure there is the amount of money that we kind of have in place based on the borrowing in the 10-year, or the capital plan that's in place. To answer the second part of your question, when would we see this come back? We're going to be proposing to council that we do a staggered construction phasing of this project. So 2025 is design and drawings, 26 would be construction. 2027, we would come back again and ask for money for design and drawings on the next phase. 28 would be construction. I would see that falling into the next phase. But again, it would be based on funding that we get, and that's the way we would like to run the next 4 phases of this project, is every 2 years, pick away at it again and get this project finished off in roughly the 10-year timeline that we had originally planned for.
Okay. Mayor Hansen.
Hi, 2 questions. One is, one of the options that we had talked about, and it was in the earlier versions of the maps, was around a bike or a pump track up near the quad ball diamonds, and I don't see that as an option. Where did it go, and what is the cost? And then my secondary question is, I thought at Committee of the Whole we had directed it to come back with 2 options, but none of them included an outdoor hockey rink, and I see that in the proposed resolution. So I'm just curious what the cost comes to once remove that, or if something has changed since then.
Okay, Your Worship. To your first question, the pump track is still included in the project. We haven't identified it specifically in the costing because we've been picking away at that little by little within some of our current phases to try and make sure that we do it as inexpensive as possible. So in phase, I should pull out my background information, but in phase 2A landscaping, we created the hills for the actual bike track with some excess material that was on site. So instead of hauling excess material away from site, we used it there. We didn't have enough excess material to do the pump track portion, but we expect that to come in phase 4, this upcoming phase of landscaping. So we would move that excess material over and create some more hills and some more track there. And then in phase 7 landscaping, which is just classified as trails and landscaping in the document, I want to say, oh, I don't have it here, sorry. I want to say it's in phase 7 landscaping, which is the final phase. That would be where we finish off the pump track. So we didn't include an exact dollar figure with it because, again, we're trying to utilize excess material to bring that cost down.
Okay. Mayor Hansen, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, and I guess if I could just request, it's been removed on recent versions of the map, and I would love to see it back listed on there, because I think that's something really neat to talk to community about. And it wasn't until I was talking to someone about the plan, and I pulled out the map and realized it has disappeared in recent versions. So I'd, yeah, love to see that back. But then also the question about removing the hockey rink, please.
Okay, sorry, Mayor Hansen, just for some clarification, recent versions of the map, are you referring to that phased version that we had identified with the different phasing on there?
Yes, the one that's in the, that's in our package.
Page 39 on
Unless
our
it's too small and I just can't read it. That could be the case, but I don't believe it's in there anymore.
Okay, just for clarification, it could very well not be identified specifically in that location, in that mapping. But yeah, we are still utilizing the original, off the top of my head, 2018 conceptual plan that was approved that does have it in there. So certainly we can make sure that it gets added back to some of these future phasing maps just to make sure that it doesn't get lost on there.
And I believe it's gone on the one that's on our website right now with the project plan as well.
Okay, we can check that out for sure. Okay. As far as the hockey rink goes, the last option that we had thrown in there, which was from the cow presentation, option 4, we included the hockey rink in there. Again, we were being fiscally responsible, trying to figure out what worked where to stay within that basically $5 million mark, the 4977 mark. And the outdoor hockey rink fit within that dollar figure as a round figure, as opposed to cutting something in half. We did cut a little bit off the operations yard, as we explained earlier, just to make that 4977 work. And that's kind of where the outdoor hockey rink came in as well, as we were trying to come up with at least one option that fit exactly in with our projected financial resources that we're looking for the next phase of construction. I hope that answered the question.
Okay. Any other questions? Or can we maybe at this point give a sense for our administration if we are finding that the option 4 is an appropriate option to move forward on here? Councillor Parsons first. Yeah,
just one question. What is the, like I want it all, and I want it now, but that's not gonna happen. Okay, I'm a facilities guy, and everybody knows that, so I want everything done now, but that's not gonna happen, like I said. What is the pressure on the turf fields that we have now, say for soccer, football, and what, the outlying fields that we have in town? What's the pressure we have on those?
So to Councillor Parsons, the current pressures on soccer, I would suggest is we have enough soccer fields in town right now based on some expanded utilization. So currently minor soccer, and nothing against them, but they like to play Monday through Thursday, especially their rec leagues after school. We don't have enough soccer fields for everybody to play those times. We need to expand more into Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, that kind of thing, based on the current numbers of soccer, because they've been growing over the past as well. Minor football, of course, I think we all know that, is that we don't have an active field in town right now. They are able to practice in town, but they're going out of town for all their home games, similar to what we explained with the Gulls Stadium. Is they're playing all their home games out of town at this point in time because we don't have the suitable field either on the school grounds or on town sports fields.
And one question too, regarding the new soccer fields, they would be fully irrigated with the plans of the ponds we already have in the well we're going to drill. Was my assumption, is that correct?
That's correct. The 2 grass soccer fields that we have proposed in some of these different options do include the irrigation for it as well, yes.
Yep. Okay. Because that creates a much better field, more usable, and yeah, and takes more abuse, like football. Any other questions? Can we maybe make comment regarding options that we lean to? I suspect we all have some compromised feelings in our minds with the different sports and possibilities. Councillor Payne.
Well, I think at the end of the committee of the whole meeting, we had a conversation. We had put our hands up to decide what we felt were the most important pieces, and I think the majority of us felt the turf field was a piece that needed to happen as quickly as possible. And it's not even, to me, the turf field is the piece that is going to set Pagano apart. Right now, it's what draws people to Lacombe. It's what draws people to Great Chief, is the turf field. I feel like we're missing out on a revenue opportunity. I feel like we're kicking a can down the road even further. And I do think that being fiscally responsible is important. But when I look at this, once again, I see an ODR where uniformly we didn't want an ODR when we talked about this in committee of the whole. And here we are with another ODR. So my feeling is, much like Councillor Parsons, my feeling is, I want the pieces that we're missing. I want the pieces that are going to fill in the gaps for us, not more of the same of what we have, which is exactly what we're doing here. We're getting more of the same of what we have. So I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because I do think that the turf field is going to do something different for the community. I do think that, to me, it's a priority. I do know that I've got a little bit of a bias because my whole life has been wrapped up in this area. But I also know that the other 6 people around the horseshoe have similar thoughts. So I would love to hear what those thoughts are as well.
Can we, yes, Ms. Phillips,
Sorry,
interject?
if I may interrupt. As it's 5 p.m. and with our new agenda, did we want to pause to see if the...
Thank you.
Yeah,
we'll just
to see if there's anyone else?
confirm. I didn't see anybody add a signature. Did we have any signatures, Ms. Reynolds? No. So we're just so
good.
the
Thank
public
you.
knows,
There's no
anybody online recognizes we're just acknowledging that the 5 o'clock open microphone potential that we would confirm at 5, and it's 5:06. So seeing none, we will carry on with the conversation, and we can go on. Sure, Councillor Dakin.
Thank you. I would be more comfortable with spending $8.2 million right now, looking at a 6% inflation over 4 phases. You know, that could be as much as, I did the math here, but you know, an extra $6 million. So I'd be more preferential to be doing everything except for the outdoor rink in option 4, but bring in the synthetic turf.
Can we fill in with everyone else's thoughts, and I'll go last. Councillor Mearns.
Love that idea. Obviously, we need to have a vote on our debt limit, but I'm just wondering where that gets us to our ceiling on our borrowing. And I don't, Mr. Lebsack, if you can answer that, if it's a Mr. Moore question.
So this would be to clarify the cost of having a synthetic turf and then the offsetting of the outdoor hockey rink. Did I hear that right? Yes. So the net differences of that. Is there?
Yeah. So to Councillor Mearns, I cannot answer that right off the top of my head. I did bring we did provide the information here. Mr. Moore shared it with me. I don't know what another, say, $2.3 million would do to our debt limit, but again, we have included that information here.
Just to clarify, the difference between option 4 and 3.2 million difference.
3.2, okay.
Yeah. Ms. Phillips.
So on page 52 of the agenda, we have all the debt limit information in there from Mr. Moore.
Oh yeah, the graphs
Yes,
for the debt ceiling limit.
I don't see, yeah.
So just as I see it, we have to project into the future, but in the immediate term and short term, there is the room of 3.2 in there to stay below the debt ceiling. However, you need to pay into the future, and anything that's added in our capital plan in 2027 could possibly throw us potentially over. So any other comment from Mr. Lebsack?
I'm afraid no comment from myself.
And Megan Hansen.
I'm wondering if it's possible, and I like that direction, that to me the synthetic turf field is the only for sure component I'd like to see, and then the other ones I'd like to just get as much as we can within our budget. Could we, because what I'm hearing is the soccer fields aren't currently utilized outside, like they aren't used on weekends, there's some underutilized time. Could the soccer fields be conditional on the grant? And if the grant was not received to offset the cost, then that be put into the next phase? Is that an option to motion that way?
Ms. Phillips will try answering that.
Through to the chair. Yes, we could definitely word the motion that way, that the project's approved and that the sports fields, or sorry, the soccer pitches only go through based on funding or grant funding received, yes. So yes, we can do that. And
I have a question, just to clarify for myself, the The cost of the synthetic field, was that the 3 point? Minus the hockey, that was the 3.2, just those two factors then. Okay.
So that was my question. I was wanting to know, before we get too far down this rabbit hole, what the actual estimated cost will be if we eliminate the ODR, add in the turf field, what we're talking about, and with of course the contingent upon the grants. What kind of dollar figure are we talking then? It's good to have kind of an estimate, but I'd like to know a little more accurately. Yeah, I've got a number popping around in my head too, but 7.3.
Eight point 8.1 or 2, yeah, approximately. Because it'd be the soccer field would be contingent
Yeah.
on grant. So without the grant, 8.2 is what we're estimating.
Yeah.
With grant would be lower.
To Councillor Stindy, yes, that's
Yes.
the number I get as well, as 8.2 and a little bit of change there, yeah.
Okay. And if we made the grant request for the 2 grass fields, that value, I'm forgetting the amount, that was a 1 million grant request, I believe, or something like about 1 million. Yes, that, what percentage of the grass fields would that cover? Was that full cost or?
So the 2 soccer fields, which includes all the irrigation and everything in there, is $918,000.
Okay, so that covers that for sure. Okay. Yeah. When I'll make my own comments, just overall comments. When I read option 4, I could see some of the logic in it. It does have some growing sports in it, like the pickleball courts. Soccer is growing, and as alluded to, a real big positive for me was the parking lot, as boring as they are. We recognize that parking and its expansion, the potential for revenue off it for all these different reasons, parking lot is actually a positive, having that in any of these options. Not so maybe sellable to the average user, because we think as users more often than not, as councillors as well, but operations yard is critical to the work we do as a town. So having an operations yard might be hard to sell, but it's darn important to run a soccer field or a hockey arena or a turf field or a parking lot or everything. The people have to work on these facilities. So the operations yard, to me, is super critical to save money of running mowers and all that stuff. It's a lot farther than 12 minutes across our town when you're driving a lawnmower. It's a waste of labor to have people driving across town in mowers. So these things save us money and are important. But I did walk in, in reading this package and options, I had it very strongly in my mind still, that idea of the turf field. The artificial synthetic turf was one of the 2 big things we talked about, and I still feel a draw to make that work. Councillor Parsons?
Okay, if we're naming out sort of options, I'm with you on that. The operations yard, don't let my friends hear that no hockey rink. Okay. But one that I want to point out is the parking lot. Okay, and if we're pushing everything into 2-year segments, I do believe that we have to pave the parking lot by Gulf Stadium. These are people who put in an $8 million investment into what could be a risky investment for our town that has done so much for our town. And I do believe that we should look at the parking lot for the Gulf Stadium, that part. the operations yard, and for sure the synthetic field. Now, how much soccer can be played on the synthetic field? Is it a multi-use field? So that at least alleviates some of the soccer. And pickleball, I listen to it every day. So it's a growing sport. So somehow, if we can figure in option 4 with taking out the rink and putting in the synthetic field or something such as that.
So maybe what we're thinking about as we're going through this process in our mind is using option 4 as our benchmark for editing. We might say we're looking at potentially a motion that names the features of option 4 without the outdoor hockey rink, has a condition on grass soccer fields if the grant comes through, and includes a synthetic field. That's what I'm hearing from our conversations. Councillor Mearns, and then Mayor Hansen.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. My suggestion would be to take a quick recess and maybe have a new motion drafted instead of trying to piece it together with what you had mentioned.
Okay, Mayor Hansen and Councillor Dakin next.
That's a great suggestion, and I like the direction that motion is taking. I guess with that suggestion, if we could update those formulas on our debt limit, I'm just still a little bit unclear with that decision. Can we do that with our other commitments within the 85% debt limit, or are we also all agreeing to change that? So I guess, yes, within the working of that motion, if we could also see where that sits. I guess I'm looking at the charts in here. I'm just a little bit unclear with what is included and what isn't.
Okay, and I'll note also that Mr. Moore is also in the room and seems to be busy on a laptop right now too, so hopefully he's able to interject some information in a short pause that we'll plan in a moment. Councillor Dakin, though.
I just would like clarity. Parking lot 3 is Gulls Stadium or no? For sure, yeah.
To Councillor Dakin, yes, that's correct.
Okay,
It's the
so
one immediately north of the stadium.
Good.
Okay, so before we pause, I'll just repeat that looking at option 4 as a place to amend from, we would remove outdoor hockey rink and remove or include grass soccer fields with a condition of granting. We would include synthetic sports field, and the rest would stay as is. Okay. As I raised when we decided to go to a different format and time, we would have at least another 5 minutes so I could eat something. So typically we have a 10-minute break. We need a bit of time for editing. I'd like to eat some hamburger soup. And so we'll call it, does 15 minutes sound fine to everybody? Is that, and Ms. Phillips, does that sound right for some editing moments?
Yeah, we can get everything done, I think, on our end.
Okay, so in washroom breaks, etc., 5:35 we'll be back. Calling the meeting back to order. We will review formally a draft motion that we have for council here to consider. I know people have already started reading it, and Mayor Hansen already can see it on her screen as well. One thing I was thinking about as we think about our decision tonight, we are launching something that has long-term effects on our community in terms of the finances and enjoyment of facilities. But what we're also launching at this moment is a plan to proceed. So we are going to enter, first of all, a year of design. So there could be decisions that are made in the future that adapt to that design and plan. It sometimes feels a bit gut-wrenching to make such large commitments as a council, and to think, you know, have we set the direction in the best way that we want and can? But knowing full well here, we're launching a design and putting forward our stamp of approval on it. However, there will be days to reckon in the future too. All right, with that, start off with a theme. I understand, Mr. Lebsack, do you want to add more to it? I understand Mr. Moore might have some information to share too. Is there any other?
Yeah, I'll
go ahead.
Councillor Stindy, I'll invite Mr. Moore up to give a quick comment on the debt limit.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Shall I start?
Yeah.
I'll draw your attention to that one chart that was provided in your agenda package this evening. Sorry if you hear that. Which, of course, dates back to the budget process last fall. So this hasn't been updated, and really the main update is just on the debt limit number. So as I think Council's aware, the caveat we put on this every year is the fact that we're conservative when it comes to estimating our debt limit and its growth. So for 2024, the year debt limit estimate there was $70.5 million. So if you look at the financial statements just completed for 2024, our debt limit is actually just under 75 million. So projecting growth, we know for 2025 with the increased tax levy this year that we're probably going to see some strong growth in the debt limit for 25 and 26 perhaps as well. So I think, you know, by the time, and it's all timing as well. So by the time we get 26, 27, when we may have to borrow for some of these projects. So the projects and the dollar amounts below are still relevant, and there hasn't been much change. And we won't see any change until we deliberate the budget for the upcoming budget cycle. But so it's all timing, of course. So the 1.4 you see in 2024 did not happen under utilities. And so there's two bylaws in place for it's actually 9 million for utilities in 2025, which council passed earlier this year. And then I know there's also the commitment for the facility project, the joint school initiative as well. So it's hard to say, you know, we're halfway through 25 now, and we may not start drawing on some of these bylaws and the future bylaws for Pogetto Park until, you know, 26 or even into 27. So that being said, and with the debt limit growth, you know, we would probably be very close to reaching our 70% limit as per policy by the time these borrowings all come to fruition in the next 2 to 3 years. Council may have to consider a slight increase to that, but again, it's based on the debt limit growth and the timing of the borrowings.
Thank you for that background. One specific question for this summer's work on water infrastructure. We were successful only partially. I think our project is upwards of 16 million is the number I have in my head, but we were successful in getting about $1 million or from provincial government.
Yeah, so that the money we got through the water wastewater program was for new wells and search for raw water supply on the south end, and so of town, and so the borings that we have in place, the 9 million were for other projects. So those were for the tie-in from the North Reservoir and improvements to the South Reservoir. So unrelated to that grant.
Okay, separate one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for, especially Mr. Moore right now? Do we have an appetite for someone to make a motion as drafted at this point in time? Councillor Mearns? Or, sorry, Councillor Payne has a question?
Okay, I make a motion that council directs the administration to proceed with phase 4 of Pagado Park development, including development of parking lot 3, synthetic turf field, 4 pickleball courts, and the operations yard without the building for an estimated cost of 7.4 million. And that further, that the development includes 2 grass soccer fields contingent on grant funding to cover the cost estimated at 918,000.
Okay, just yeah. Yeah, don't read the pennies. Any questions and further discussion on this at this point? The pregnant pause, because then we will have a vote. All those in favor? Carried and I have to, oh, now I see it, and carried unanimously. Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you, Mr. Lebsack. And I'll take a second here to get to the next item. On page 54 of the package, request to approve arena floor covering. And Ms. Becker, start
Good afternoon,
when
Mayor
you're
and
ready.
Council. Today I'm here to request for approval to award the RFP for the arena floor covering project CP 2514. On May the 2nd, we requested a proposal, or sorry, a request for proposal was posted on the Alberta Purchasing Connection page, as well as the Sylvan Lake News for 2 consecutive weeks. 3 proposals were submitted by OmniSport Incorporated, Covermaster, Athletica, Sport System. All 3 were reputable companies specializing in arena floor covering based on the outlined criteria. OmniSport Incorp received the highest overall rating and was within the $200,000 budgeted project amount. Administration is proposing the following motion: that council awards the arena floor covering project CP 2514 to OmniSport Inc. for the amount not exceeding $180,000 excluding GST. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on this contract? Okay. Councillor.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, go ahead.
Move the council awards the arena floor covering project CP 2514 to OmniSport Incorporated for the amount not exceeding $180,000 excluding GST.
Okay. Any question or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? I'm pausing for Mayor Hansen. Yes, and we have unanimous support. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Becker, as well.
Thus, putting the homicide to bed. Putting the homicide to bed.
Yeah. And we've had many discussions on this one in the past too, so in our budget debates, so good to see progress come ahead on this. The next item is appointment of councillor to the Sylvan Lake Municipal Library Board and Parkland Regional Library Board. And And Ms. Cooper, Abel, if you please take the mic.
There we go. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Due to unforeseen circumstances and scheduling conflicts, Councillor Payne, who currently serves as the council-appointed representative to both the Parkland Regional Library Board and the Sylvan Lake Municipal Library Board, and Councillor Rilling, the alternate, representative to the Parkland Regional Library Board, have chosen to step down from their respective roles. As a result, Council is required to appoint successors to fill each of these vacancies for the remainder of the respective terms. It's important to note that the PRL bylaw requires each member of the Regional Board to be a member of the local library board. Thank you, and I look for a motion.
Any discussion? I was hoping Mayor Hansen was going to jump in. She is, great. My hint worked. Mayor Hansen, please.
Sure. I'll just say there's only one more, because this appointment wouldn't come into play till after a couple days into this week, which is after the next library board meeting. There is only one more Parkland meeting and likely one, maybe two more library board meetings in this term. So for that reason, I'm happy to put my name forward as an option for this, because I've sat on that board in the past and I wouldn't need the same level of orientation, but we would need someone as an alternate or someone else if they'd like to be the primary for this. Keeping in mind other committees, that was really where we failed Councillor Rilling, was she is the alternate here, but it is on the date of a couple of her primary committees as well. So makes sense to make both of these adjustments just so that we can get through this next chunk of time.
Councillor Payne.
I intend on still attending the Sylvan Lake Library Board. There's some things that we're doing that I want to finish, so I intend on doing that. Me being no longer a part of Parkland, yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna.
Is it, you can just leave it at that, you're saying. Is it a requirement that you have to be on the local board to be on the Parkland board? That's my understanding.
Yeah, in order to be on the Parkland board, you do have to be a voting member of the local board. But as the mayor pointed out, there's only one meeting left in Parkland before the election. So I'm not, if we were to keep things the way they were, remove me from Parkland, keep me on the library board, the Sylvan Lake Library Board, appoint an alternate for the Parkland, have the alternate attend the Parkland meeting, I would be content with that. I just think that, yeah, it's best for me not to be on the Parkland board.
Councillor Rilling, did I see your hand up? No. Okay. I'm at a loss here as chair. I'm looking for someone to jump up and make a motion or to speak to the challenge of the legalities of Parkland board versus library board. That's my concern that I raise. I just want to make sure we're not in contravention, then we don't have a representative. Okay. Mayor Hansen and then Councillor Mearns.
Yeah, I guess I'd just reiterate the request that they have the same person that sits on both, and that is in their bylaws. And I as much as I know that you really want to split these up, I do believe we need to appoint somebody who can attend both of those.
Okay, Councillor Dakin.
When are the meetings?
Jazz, you would know that better, actually.
Thursdays.
Is it Thursdays? That's the third Thursday for Parkland. Wednesday, the library board, municipal library board is Wednesdays. It's the third Wednesday.
I don't have an interest myself in being the appointed person. I can be an alternate. And I have a community hub meeting.
The Parkland Library meetings are
at
10 a.m., 10 till about noon. The library board meetings are at 6:30 on Wednesdays, and they last about an hour.
So, Councillor Mearns?
Do these need to be read as 3 separate motions or all at once? What's?
We could use the words further that when we read them out, I think.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Okay, and be a surprise with what name you say? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Mearns.
I make a motion that council replace Councillor Jazz Payne on the Sylvan Lake Library Board and appoint Mayor Megan Hansen as the Town of Sylvan Lake representative for a term to begin on June 13th, 2025 and end on October 27th, 2025. And that council replace Councillor Jazz Payne on the Parkland Regional Library Board and appoint Mayor Megan Hansen as the Town of Sylvan Lake representative for a term to begin on June 13th, 2025 and end on October 27th, 2025. And that council replace Councillor Teresa Rilling on the Parkland Regional Library Board and appoint Councillor Ian Ustindi as the alternate representative for the Town of Sylvan for the term to begin on June 13th, 2025 and end on October 27th, 2025 as per AIR 1182.
Any discussions or questions? Mayor Hansen.
I just had the question of clarity. Councillor Ostindi, is the hub meeting on the same date as the Parkland one? Is it the 3rd Thursday?
I believe it is, but we have alternates for, our alternates for hub also would have commitments either way. But I can.
So with that ask, is there potentially somebody who doesn't have a committee meeting at that time, just to ensure that we've got?
I think we've struggled with that in the past because of hub when we couldn't have an alternate even go to the hub. But it was a conflict that Councillor Parsons had with another commitment that he had on another committee. So it's Thursdays are just an awkward spot for us at that particular time of day. But it would be, as you said, there's one meeting left in the year, this organizational year. So the hope is that if that would be needed, that either Parsons would be able to back up. What date is it? What date was it again? June?
3rd Thursday of the month.
And that's.
And I guess I'm looking and thinking around the table. Councillor Mearns, do you have a conflict at that time? I think you're the only person I can think that doesn't have an official committee meeting then.
That's at 10 a.m.?
Yeah. Yes.
No, I do have a commitment.
I know we couldn't pull it off last time. I just remember everybody was hit somehow.
Now, that's the 3rd Thursday of which month are we looking at? In June?
June, and is that the final meeting you're saying?
I'm talking
No, it would be either September or October. Jazz, I don't know if you know that next date.
I think it's September. Because the third Thursday in October would be after the election.
Yep, same pattern. Go ahead, Councillor Dakin.
Is it possible to have just one person go to the hub? Because you and I are both on hub.
Yeah, we've had that situation once before. We were into that predicament.
Because I can go to hub.
Yeah.
If that's okay, if that's something that we could change. I do go to hub anyway. There's 2 of us there.
And it might just be worth noting at the next organizational meeting, if a couple of other internal meetings are the conflicts, and we know that every single councillor happens to be busy with the different commitments, I wonder if there's a potential that one of our internal meetings could choose a different date or time on the next go-around. Which would probably be the hub. I think that's the internal one of all of our conflicts, but I think it'll likely work out for this time.
Yeah, hopefully nothing pops up and is not needed. Barring any other questions or discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Unanimously. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ms. Anna Cooper-Bell. And our next item is the request to award tender pavement patching services 2025. And Mr. Watson will take it away for us. This is found on page 94.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. We are here to request Council approval toward the tender for the annual pavement patching program, which has a budget this year of $300,000. Pavement patching is the process of repairing small failures in the road surface, which may be a result of a poor road base, settled manholes, utility excavations, or age. Each year, staff perform an inspection of the paved surfaces and develop a maintenance plan. This year, at least 26 locations have been identified for pavement repairs, which is comparable to the 2024 total. A tender for pavement patching services was issued earlier this spring, and on May 21st, administration received and reviewed proposals from 2 vendors and scored those submissions based on the criteria included in the request for proposal. The submission from Border Paving has the highest score based on those criteria, with a submitted price of just under $187,000. The submitted cost will not be the final cost of the project, as other locations are added throughout the year due to unscheduled utility repairs and other pavement failures. However, it is expected that the program will be completed within the budgeted amount. Administration is satisfied with all aspects of the proponent's submission and respectfully recommends awarding the 2025 pavement patching services tender to Border Paving for an amount of up to $300,000. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Watson. Any questions? Seeing none, seeking a motion. Councillor Rilling.
I make a motion that Council awards the tender for 2025 roadway pavement patching services program to Border Paving Limited of Red Deer, Alberta, for an amount not to exceed $300,000, excluding the GST, as presented in Report AIR 1155.
Okay, thank you. I can say it's awesome to the competitive process giving us a 50% discount pretty much on the range of contracts. That's my only comment. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? And carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Watson. Our next item is housing needs assessment, found on page 120 of our package. And an interesting report, to say the least. Certainly lengthy too, but very interesting. Go ahead, Ms. Lemanis.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to present for Council's approval the 2024 Housing Needs Assessment Report. As part of the town's half funding, we were required to have an up-to-date housing needs assessment, and this is an initiative included in our action plan. Through CMHC, we were offered access to free services from the Housing Assessment Resource Tool, or HART project, to create an up-to-date housing needs assessment. This report utilizes 2021 federal census data and will meet the requirements of our half agreement. The Housing Needs Assessment Report also serves as a key resource for nonprofit and private housing providers seeking access to funding that requires an up-to-date housing needs assessment. As a bit of background on the HART project, as part of the National Housing Strategy, CMHC had partnered with the HART project to standardize housing needs assessments across the country, which provides customized data using the federal census. A standardized housing needs assessment provides a reliable way to measure and compare housing need in every community across Canada and help improve the quality of housing supply decision-making and measure progress at all levels of government. The data in the HART tool is readily available to the public, and with future federal census, the town may use this tool to update any of the data categories outlined in this report. As noted in the council report, the town undertook the Sustainable Housing Initiative in 2019 based on 2016 federal census data and local supplementary data. The document apologies. So just repeating myself here, the document utilized 2016 federal census regional and supplementary data and combined elements of a housing needs assessment, a comprehensive community profile, and a strategic housing plan that included sets of recommended action to address housing supply and affordability, some of which have been implemented. While not as comprehensive as the 2019 initiative, the HART report looks at key indicators such as income, household size, housing stock, affordable shelter costs, and core housing need to assess current and future housing need. The historical data included in the HART report enhances the town's understanding of our evolving housing landscape, giving us greater ability to predict and address growing trends. Some of the key findings outlined in your report with the full housing needs assessment report, which was provided as an attachment. Some of those key highlights are that generally we see that there's an increase in 1- and 2-person households that in 2021 represent 60% of all households in our community. The report makes mention that this is notable as the majority of the current housing stock as of 2021 mostly consists of 3-bedroom plus detached dwellings. We see that overall, 37% of households in Sylvan fall in the moderate to low income groups, earning less than $74,000 per year. Our senior population continues to grow, representing 11% of our population and 24% of all single-person households. The report indicates a relatively low core housing need in 2021. However, notes this is partly due to CERB benefits that temporarily saw lower income groups' income grow, providing them the means to afford adequate housing. We also see in the report that core housing need is most acute amongst certain groups, including single-person households, especially seniors living alone, as well as single mother households and renters. In terms of future housing, the report indicates that there will be continued growth in 1- and 2-person households, and there's a need for smaller, more affordable housing units to accommodate changing household composition and income levels. So while the HART report meets the requirements of our half funding agreement, administration does recommend that the town consider undertaking a more robust housing strategy similar to the 2019 initiative that includes local data on homelessness and recommended actions to support housing affordability. Benefits to having such a formal housing strategy include outlining local actions to address housing affordability beyond the HAF program, help inform decision-making on future land use and infrastructure investments, and support the town's eligibility for future provincial and federal funding opportunities for housing. As noted in my report, such a project would require additional resources, such as hiring a consultant, and may be brought forward to a future committee of the whole meeting for further discussion following the Housing Summit. So administration recommends that Council approve the 2024 Housing Needs Assessment Report as presented, and the resolution is before you in your agenda package, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from other councillors at this moment? Without anticipating the full discussion at a future committee of the whole meeting, would the concept of going to a more in-depth study to incorporate new census, would that be something for like future budget deliberations? And another question is, could it use half money to pursue future study?
To Councillor Ostindi, so we have to spend all of our half dollars by January of 2028. So by the time that census, the next census would come out and the full data sets are available, that kind of may push us out of that timeline to spend our half dollars.
Okay.
However, the HEART tool does allow us to, it gives us access to that data where we can take the housing needs assessment that we have now and update some of those categories. So we could take that with some of our local data and kind of fuse it together to create a more robust housing strategy.
Okay, good. Any other questions? The rest of my questions will probably be answered at the Housing Summit, so it's interesting to see some of the reactions we're hearing community very much fit with, like that priorities you mentioned of seniors, single family senior dwellings, and the single parents, single moms specifically, and smaller units overall. Yeah, so it's a good. This data is, believe it or not, I did read the whole report, and it's got a heck of a lot of data in it, and it will really inform a lot of decisions. I'm curious to see how the community partners react to it. I mean, it's not something they're going to read at a summit, but it is available online, is it not? Now that it's part of our packages, is that correct?
Yeah, so following this evening's meeting, we'll update our website and make it available on our Engage half site.
Okay, great. All right, seeing no other questions, we have a motion potentially. Can we get someone to volunteer to read this motion into the record? Councillor Rilling.
I make a motion that council approves the 2024 housing needs assessment as presented in AIR 1188.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carried unanimously. Thank you very much for the report. And our next item is the land use bylaw amendment regarding restaurants, found on page 234.
Thank you. Good evening, Council.
Thank you.
This is for Council to consider granting first reading to bylaw 1928, 2025, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695, 2015 to tweak the definitions of restaurant and drinking establishment. Currently, the town's definition of a restaurant requires that they are to allow minors at all times. Restricting minors from entering the premises at any time of the day classifies them as a drinking establishment. Administration is recommending an amendment to the definitions of restaurant and drinking establishment to be less restrictive to the operational activities of these establishments. The changes include removing the specifics as they relate to the liquor license and the prohibiting of minors. These changes were recommended to administration after an interagency meeting between the town, AGLC, RCMP, and municipal enforcement, which highlighted the challenges occurring in many restaurants, especially those on Lakeshore Drive. This amendment will keep the intent of a restaurant, but allow the business owner to determine if it would be appropriate to restrict minors after a certain time in the evening. It will also allow AGLC to impose restrictions on allowing minors if they see fit. There will be no requirement from the town for operators to change their current business operations. However, those that choose to restrict minors after a certain time will now have the opportunity to do so. At this time, administration respectfully recommends that council grant first reading to bylaw 1928, 2025, and sets July 8th, 2025 as the date for the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Devlin. Any questions? Mayor Hansen.
Curious how the primary purpose is defined. Is it by sales volume, or what is that? How do they select that?
Through the chair to the mayor. Typically, yes, if the municipality wanted to do any kind of enforcement action, or if we had to, we would look for sales and request that documentation to see which was the primary item of sale, I guess you could say. That's typically how municipalities do that, where our definitions were modeled similarly to others out there, and that's typically where the primary purpose is either food or liquor, typically.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Dakin?
Thank you. Question, would it be possible during COVID, a rule changed with AGLC that we as restaurants were able to but like as long as it was sealed, people could take away a drink with them, and all restaurants could. So one of the things is, and the sale of alcoholic beverage for consumption away from the premise is something that would conflict with what AGLC's rules are as well. So basically, any restaurant, I don't know who might do it in town that might do takeaway cocktails, they wouldn't be able to do that anymore.
Through the chair, that's under the definition for drinking establishment?
Yeah, just at the end there it says, and the sale of alcohol beverage for consumption away from the premise. I also know that some restaurants do off sales because it's on their liquor license allowed at the end of the evening. So is that something that restaurants could do? I just see other people, I don't like to do off sales, so I don't do that. But I know other people do, that it might be an issue.
We could check with AGLC on that, if it's something that would be allowed. Again, if AGLC was to allow it, I'm not sure that the town would have any concerns if someone was, purchasing the liquor to take away from the restaurant, especially in association if they've got takeout, for example. I don't think there would be any barriers from our definition that would restrict that per se, but we can double check that with AGLC.
Okay, seeing no other questions, glad we don't have to define adult entertainment. And do we have someone who's willing to read a motion into the record? Councillor Mearns?
Make a motion the council grant first reading to bylaw 1928-2025, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695-2015 to amend the definition of restaurant and drinking establishment as requested in AIR 1187, and that council set July 8th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the council chambers of the municipal government building as the date, time, and place for the public hearing on bylaw 1928-2025 as requested in AIR 1187.
Seeing no other questions, comment or question? Yeah. All right. All those in favor? And carried unanimously. All right. Our next item of business is the 47th Avenue upgrades east of Highway 20, page 239 in the package. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. If you can jump right in.
Good evening, Council. Purpose of this report is to request Council approval to award the tender for construction for the 47th Ave upgrades. The scope of work of this project will see 47th Ave upgraded east of Highway 20. It'll be creating 4 lanes from Highway 20 to the West Walmart entrance. Also, traffic signals to be installed at the Iron Gate and Thevenez intersection. And we'll also be improving the street lighting along that stretch of roadway as well. So we are aware it's a bit deficient, so we've taken this opportunity to enhance that as well. Tender closed on April 8th with 5 tenders received, with Border Paving coming in with the lowest. Administration is requesting a budget of $3.39 million to fully complete the project. That includes a 10% contingency. Funding for the project currently available we have is $1.1 million. We were fortunate to receive a grant from the province, the STIP grant, Strategic Transportation Infrastructure Program. The max amount allowed for just over $1.6 million. And asking for a small contribution transfer from the road capital reserves of just about $670,000 to be able to complete this project. Administration's presented some options for Council's consideration, along with a number of proposed resolutions. Administration would respectfully recommend that Council award the tender for construction of the 47th Ave upgrades and traffic signals to Border Paving Limited for $2,616,673.48. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. Any questions on this report? I have one. There's a note in the Stantec letter regarding insurance papers. I'm assuming they've all been found or submitted at this point?
Yes, to Councillor Cindy, yes, it's something that's usually done right at the last minute once we figure everything's been finalized and awarded, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Seeking a councillor to put a motion on the floor. Councillor Payne.
I move that council award the contract for the 47th Avenue upgrades and traffic signals to Border Paving Limited of Red Deer for $2,616,673.48, excluding contingency and GST as presented in AIR 1163, and that council approve reallocation of $673,896.50 from road capital reserves to CP 2401 47th Ave upgrades as presented in AIR 1163, and that council approve a budget adjustment to CP 2401 47th Ave upgrades to $3,390,000 as presented in AIR 1163.
Okay. Any discussion or debate on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. Enjoy the next project. Our next item is procedure bylaw amendment, found on page 256 in our packages. And Ms. Oh, sorry. Click. That's just a second. We got rid of the J and the K. Did I get that right? Because we did that under consent agenda. Now, I've actually got it circled right here on my agenda, the big asterisks. Okay, correspondence and information items. I'll make a comment, public apology letters. It was wonderful to see a youth making such progress, working with our police department, fire department, and other staff to make growth and to have seen his or her acknowledgement of making error and making things better. That was just awesome to see, and I'm glad staff worked with him so well. Any other questions or comments on those correspondence information items? Seeing none, we'll move to number 9, CAO report, found on page 306.
Thank you. And a thank you to my team for all their contributions to the report every month. So Wellness and Community Connections, we have Lemonade Day coming up on June 14th, as per our proclamation as well. And the focus groups for the social master planning are completed, and we had some good engagement with the municipality for this, so there is still the opportunity to comment online. Parks and Protective Services, the public dock and day mooring material has arrived and they'll be installed once the province approves. And the swim line was put out as well with the help of the fire department. The lake level is quite low. Now, I haven't seen the lake level in previous years, but even I can see that it's quite low. So, planning and development, stripping permit has been issued for the site at 5049 50th Street, the old hotel site for the removal of topsoil and landscaping. And all their reports are attached with our incredibly busy planning and development department. Public Works, several projects listed there. I'll highlight Cottonwood Roadway Rehabilitation Project. Concrete repairs are nearing completion and will be followed by milling and paving on or about June 16th. Interested in seeing the municipal solid waste master plan as well coming forward. Engineering on June 10th, construction of the Scramble Crosswalk at Lakeshore Drive and Centennial Street is scheduled to begin. I'm very interested to see that project. And the paving of the parking lot is also complete and was very full on Sunday. Special events and tourism. special note, the 2024 Discover Sylvan Lake Visitors Guide won an award through the Black Press Media. And also an upcoming event, one of our events is National Indigenous Peoples Day on June 21st. So the rest of the report is there for your consideration. If there's any questions or clarification, please ask.
Councillor Rilling?
I just have one little note, and I don't know if it's even important.
Okay.
But on page 309, it's from the meeting May 26th, but it says that council approves request to attend meeting electronically by Mayor Hansen for the regular meeting of council on June 9th. Was it not on June 10th today?
Oh, because we changed our schedule.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's important, but I just noticed it.
Thank you.
Ms. Reynolds you got it?
So that request was brought in before the times changed. So yeah, we could bring a new one in now if need be, yeah, with the change of date.
Mayor Hansen.
Actually, no, on the request form, I did put both dates. So it actually should be valid for the 10th. I put June 9th or 10th, depending on move. So that we are approved for the 10th as well.
One other question on the report. Have we, Ms. Phillips, do we know if anybody has reported the sighting of any goldfish visually? I think this is a great idea, these DNA tests, because I sure hope they're not there.
Yes, to Councillor Stindy. At this time, we haven't been made aware of any ongoing activity like that. So, but please, if anyone noticed any disturbance in the water that seems suspect, let us know and we'll investigate.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, we will move on to our council requests for information and updates. Any information requests? Yes, Councillor Dakin?
I have a very specific request from the downtown Centennial businesses again, that we please do not put the signs out for the parade too early because it affects business. People won't park there. They just see the no parking. So if we could, we did already deal with this before and made a request to put it out Saturday morning, but it was out earlier. I got some notice, so they just requested if we could really follow up for next year and please make sure that they don't go out too early, please and thank you.
As you're making that request, I'm thinking if those signs said no parking after a certain time, that might work too even.
It does, but unfortunately when you see no parking, you don't really take the time to read the small print. You just say no parking.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating.
I see, yeah. So many things to consider. Yes, it's good though, good to think about. All right, seeing no other information requests, we have a notice of motion that will be read into the record. It is Mayor Hansen. I have it here, but I understand do you have your copy there?
I do, and it's just relating to the letter that's also in our package. It is a notice of motion is that council direct administration to prepare an information report outlining the cost and staffing implications of lighting up the Winter Village earlier in the season, along with any potential economic development benefits that could be expected as a result.
Okay, so this is the moment just to read it in as a notice of motion, so no other discussion will occur at this point. It'll come up in the next meeting. I see nothing under closed meeting, so I believe we are at the point where I can say it was a big agenda, and it was far less pressure than the smaller committee of the whole agenda we did as I chaired last time, because there was no Oilers fights to watch tonight. So nobody needed to go home to see grown men beat the heck out of each other. So hopefully the next Oilers game isn't that bad and includes some more hockey. All right, seeing no other business, we are adjourned.